Hey everyone, this is Josh Oakes with MediaLeaders.com, and I have Chad Bennett on the phone today, founder and CEO of Populus Brands. Chad, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm really excited about this event that we have coming up soon, and you as a panelist are exciting to me because I get the chance to interview you, learn all kinds of cool stuff, but I decided for the first time ever, as I'm interviewing you to be on our event panelist, now I get to also record it and we have content. So here's what I want to do with you real quick. The name of the event is How to Use Storytelling to Turn Prospects into Clients. First of all, I'm going to jump in. We're going to keep this really short. I have 6 questions for you, Chad, and I'm so honored that you're on the phone with us today. First, I'm going to jump right into it. What is the service that you provide to your clients?
So what we're doing for content creators as well as existing brands is trying to build consumer lifestyle brands, I think, in a modern day of ever-changing media, and really building consumer brands through the mechanism of in-depth, engaging storytelling. And really, in doing that, it's really how to leverage the storytelling that you are building through television, movies, digital content, and parlaying that into the ability to really create a brand instead of just content. And at the end of the day, everyone who's consuming the content that you're creating, they have chosen to listen to you and chosen to listen to what you have to say. Mm-hmm. So how do you drive that emotional connection even deeper? And really what I have seen in my past experience is in doing that, you leverage not only their ability to bring the show to life so they can now live with the content they're consuming tactically and tangibly outside of the window or the platform that they're viewing it.
Yeah.
And in essence, they become not only advocates of your brand, but that emotional investment comes much deeper, as well as their financial investment. And in turn, whether it's on TV, your ratings sustain and grow, whether it's online, your impressions, and it really just connects much deeper to the stories that you're telling, and in essence, then building out additional revenue streams as you build your brand and not just your content.
So I'm a simple man, so give me an example of number one real quick of a brand that we may know of that started in the way that you build them.
Sure. So I'll give you an example of my former life, and then I'll give you an example, I think, as we continue to talk about a recent example. Okay. But, The Biggest Loser and The Office are great examples. I spent most of my career at Reveille. I was there for almost a decade. And Biggest Loser, there are tons and tons of huge weight loss brands already existing, from Weight Watchers to Jenny Craig. And Biggest Loser really became the notion of we're more in-depth telling the stories of real people, not only overcoming weight loss challenges, but really overcoming seemingly insurmountable obstacles. And because we're able to get into the storytelling of those individuals and really dive deep into them accomplishing the goals that they want to accomplish, in that sense, losing weight, we were able to create a massive global consumer brand of, on the sponsorship side, so everyone from General Mills to Subway to Brita to Ford to 24 Hour Fitness, all wanting to partake in terms of our storytelling and being a part of the fabric of that story, but also the licensing side of the business, and that's non-traditional licensing as well as traditional licensing, and everything from the Biggest Loser resorts to workout DVDs, books, magazines, supplements, equipment, apparel, you name it. We tried to leverage what was happening in the show authentically and organically, mm-hmm. of the experience that those contestants were going through, and translating that to the end viewer who was watching it, for them to be able to do the same thing that the people in the show were doing. And it really wasn't about creating some magic equation, but it was really about tying to those emotional stories that we were telling. And in doing that, it created a point of differentiation for that viewer to get a different type of inspiration and a different type of acknowledgement that they could overcome the same issues that all these contestants were overcoming, and then translate that into their everyday lives. So if you watch the show, we really tried to use that storytelling to open up the conversation of all of those real-life struggles that people go through, whether it's budget or time management or family or balancing your kids, mm-hmm. whatever it was, where we were giving them solutions to be able to have the same success rate that the people on the show did. So, and similarly on the scripted side with The Office, The Office is about a fake company. But at the end of the day, I think the reason that that show did so well for so long and was such an iconic, real estate on NBC was because it told stories of real people and real life offices and what goes on in those offices and made, comedy around it. And, it is about a fake paper company, really, but now we've transitioned that into being a brand in and of itself, too, in terms of Dunder Mifflin. So the brand wasn't necessarily called The Office, but the fake company in The Office is Dunder Mifflin. Mm-hmm. So now there are office supplies, paper that exist outside of the show when every day that show is talking about basically selling paper. And we then use that storytelling to then be able to create that line of products that now people can engage with every day as well.
Very interesting. Okay, that's cool. I did not know that about Dunder Mifflin, but I love that show. Let's jump right into number 2, if you don't mind. Do you
Sure.
think that your story is unique compared to your competitors? And if so, Chad, why?
I do think it's unique, and I say that because, when I was leaving Reveille and Shine, the reason I started the company, because I wasn't necessarily, I didn't necessarily think this was going to be the path I was going to take, but I couldn't find another place to do what I was doing at Reveille. And really what makes that unique is because I come from production and television development, I come from that storytelling world. And I think for me what we found was attaching to the core of those stories and the emotion that lives around those stories is really where the magic happens. And the way that the system is set up, it's really rare that the right people get to actually talk to the story producer or the editor or the people who are ideating in real time about what's going to happen on the show because of what's happening with these contestants. And it was really extracting those opportunities from what was happening on set or in the edit bay and trying to figure out an organic way that we could create our own product extension or a way for us to create a sponsorship opportunity. And in doing that, in every opportunity we found, it wasn't necessarily about making money. Ultimately that is the end goal of every business, but we wanted those partners to be able to help us tell our story as well. Mm-hmm. So, in essence, how do they become a B character or a C character and bring credibility to what we're showing in the show just by the notion of a brand already has a lot of affinity with their customer base and they're already credible. And because I come from that storytelling background, I was able to then, as I built the brand development department at Reveille, learn the licensing business, learn the sponsorship business, learn manufacturing, learn retail, and really I became an aggregator of trying to translate and connect those different dots back to the story. Mm-hmm. And the reason I started Populus was I couldn't find another place that was combining the collective. And you'll see a lot of brand entertainment agencies or a lot of licensing agencies, but they're very siloed, and a lot of times they don't connect the dots that really leverage a brand and leverage all of the non-competitive complementary partners that you bring into different categories. Mm-hmm. So it's the question of how does your sponsor help drive your licensee and how does your licensee help drive lift of your sponsor. And because they're both bringing different tools to the table, I'll go back to Biggest Loser, they all want to be around health and wellness. Well, if you bring in different categories around health and wellness, each of them do something different that allows someone to live a healthier lifestyle in whatever that product does. Mm-hmm. So when you start aggregating their media assets, their public relations assets, their social media assets, their on-pack, their retail initiatives, you can start synergizing companies together where collectively they can do a lot more at retail together or a lot more with their marketing dollars or their PR initiatives where everyone now is in success saving money and getting a much deeper impact because it's becoming part of a brand as opposed to a siloed nature of this marketing message here and that marketing message there. And it's all rooted in the show. So how does the show become that foundation that then ripples out to every partner?
Cool. So number 3, how do you get the chance to share your company, Populus's story, with potential prospects that you're trying to sell into your agency?
I think because, we are, just as I was talking about, we're doing a little bit different in the sense of storytelling.
Yeah.
And at the root of storytelling, and ultimately every piece of content is story. So a TV commercial is a story, but ultimately that is more manufactured, and I think at this day and age, more people are becoming savvy to that, and they want to find stuff that is authentic. So that comes naturally to us telling our story every day because of the way that we do things. And I think it's also the notion of, part of our story is we look for partners. And I think a partnership, the underlying notion of that is over-delivering. And I think when you come to the table and you start working with other companies and synergizing other companies, you naturally create that sense of over-delivering. And for us, we always try to aggregate a package and a touch point and an impression level that you don't normally get just by doing one deal. Okay. And I'll give you an example of that. National Geographic Channels is one of our clients, and we're working on Wicked Tuna right now, which is one of their big shows. And it's one of the shows we're working on. And we're now working to try to aggregate licensing opportunities that really are driven by the content. And normally that doesn't happen traditionally at the network level in terms of seeding it into, okay, this is authentic to that storytelling, and how do we create opportunities that fit into the lifestyle of the captains of those boats, but also just anglers and fishermen overall. And how do we get to the story and then build that out and bring a value to the partner that's coming in, being tied to the show, being tied to connectivity online, on social, where traditionally if you do a normal licensing deal, that isn't part of it. It's all added. So if you want to buy commercials, you have to buy a media buy. If you want to get online, you have to do a digital package. Mm-hmm. But in terms of building a brand, you really have to, I think, bring a different type of equation to the partner that incentivizes them to really want to do this and to show them that you're on board with them just as much as you are on the flip side. And if anyone listening has ever done traditional licensing, especially, that the deal structure like that is, you get the IP, you get the style guide, and basically they say, send us your stuff for approval. And for me, what I'm trying to aggregate with Populus is really building, as I mentioned, a category base that is very complementary and non-competitive, where it's creating the environment where all of these companies are engaged to work together, and that's how I start every conversation. So it is from the outset of that point of view, and it's the collective and not the individual. And I think in telling that story, if we're trying to sign a new client or we're trying to sign a partnership for one of our clients, that is the underlying tone of the story we're trying to tell, rooted in organic storytelling, really.
That's cool. So Populus Brands is all about the collective. I like that phrase. That's pretty cool. What is the biggest deal or project that your story has helped you achieve?
So I think, for Populus, being a small company in a very big town and a big industry, it's trying to create a point of differentiation, but also the point that and I heard it a number of times when I launched. It's like, oh, well, of course you could do stuff like that because you had The Biggest Loser, and that's a huge, massive show. Well, for me, I really wanted to prove the point that this can exist at any level, whether it's digital, whether it's syndication, whether it's network, whether it's cable. And one of the case studies that I've been putting together, it's a great deal that we've done, and we've built out the brand from the beginning. There's a show that we're working on called Recipe Rehab. It's on ABC. It's on Saturday mornings. It's currently airing on ABC affiliated stations. And it is it's a cooking show, and it's a great cooking show in the sense of it translates celebrity chefs and real families cooking recipes together. And in working with the companies behind the show, Litton Entertainment is the syndication distributor, Trium Entertainment's the production company, Everyday Health is a partner in the digital space and in terms of developing that IP from their YouTube channel. So it's the first TV show to air on broadcast television from one of the YouTube original channels. And before that TV show went on the air, we had an amazing book deal from HarperCollins, which is a big publisher, as well as 5 integrations into the show. And if I can do that before the show even airs, in terms of building the connectivity off network, where the show now comes to life for the viewer in more ways than one, in terms of not only them being reminded of the show, of the products that are on the show, but also giving them tools to then be able to do what the show advocates, which is making recipes healthier that you love to eat without compromising the taste. So in playing into sort of the collective, I then went a step further. One of the integration partners is a Hormel company called Jennie-O Turkey, and they're all about making the switch in terms of switching that out of your old recipes and using health turkey, which is a lot leaner and healthier. And I then, worked with HarperCollins. We integrated Jennie-O into the cookbook, and then the cookbook became Jennie-O became a strategic marketing partner for us. I think, it's the beginning of July now. I think it's actually the package is still on stands for, I think, 2 more weeks. But they put a recipe on the back of their package for 6 weeks with full national distribution. So now I've taken a show sponsor that wanted to be in the show because that's their whole marketing message of using Jennie-O Turkey to make the switch. HarperCollins, who wants to create books in this space because those books are selling really well now, and then using those non-competitive complementary partners to then take that relationship on air and now move it off air where the consumer lives every day. So when the person buys the book, they will then be reinforced with Jennie-O as a viable option to make recipes not only for the recipes in the book, but also the learning curve of this is why this product does what it does, and you can apply this to all of your favorite recipes too. And now Jennie-O is leveraging the show IP and the book and the connectivity of that credibility to then tie that back to the people who are using Jennie-O Turkey and giving them alternative ways to use that product to advocate exactly what their marketing message is. So, that is a great example of what we're trying to do that can live at every level. And it's really about thinking about the content that you're developing, and I use this in the sense of forward-thinking content creation, because it's thinking about the idea and how that will come to life in the short term of this is the development of the TV, but what is the development of the brand? And if you're thinking about those two things simultaneously, then all of a sudden if you want to create X, Y, or Z product off of your show, well, you're building the runway to do that as you're developing out those stories, knowing that you want to do that maybe in season 2, 3, or 4, and then what are the opportunities that you can take now as you're building out season 1 of your show. And it's really about building that foundation, and when you do that, as I mentioned earlier, you're not only driving the investment of your viewers emotionally much deeper, but now also financially much deeper. And those products now live with them, so you create this environment of natural, organic, grassroots marketing, of people who maybe have a barbecue, and now they're using one of these recipes from the cookbook, and hopefully Jennie-O Turkey, and now they're advocating this whole brand to whoever came to their local barbecue.
Very cool. So let's jump into number 5. What's the biggest learning experience that's helped you craft your story now? But let's get specific. As you're pitching Populus, tell me a little bit about a learning experience. And it might not be the best one, meaning it might not be the best story of, oh, we landed some big brand. But what's something that we can really learn, that you learned from, that you can teach us?
Sure. And I think the notion of that question, I think, is excellent, because at this day and age and the speed of which every industry is changing, not just technology, not just social media, but, every company is adapting to having to be more efficient, more nimble, quicker. And as silos continue to break down, I think if you aren't taking risks to learn things and test things, and I think that can be done at any level, like it doesn't have to take all your resources, but if you aren't taking the opportunity to learn from new ways of doing things and then adapting, I think that is key to any business and especially what I do. But, I'll just harken back to Biggest Loser. I'll give you 2 examples, and this ties back to the notion of using your story as the driver to everything that you do. So we did, there were 2 different products that we did. I'll use a licensing example. We had Biggest Loser appliances, and we had Biggest Loser cookware. And, both of those things fit very well into the brand because we had other products that complemented that, whether it was our sponsors with the cookware, we had our own food and grocery extensions that we did. So cooking is a very big part of living a healthy lifestyle. So we thought that could be a great way to do it. Same with appliances. We had protein supplements. We had, whatever it might be where the contestants on the ranch are using appliances, whether it's a blender or a new grill that allows you to cook something leaner and not have all the fat. But the issue became in the sense of, we really didn't create cookware or appliances that were differentiated in the marketplace and differentiated because of our story. And in doing that, it didn't resonate. So because we weren't grounded in something new and unique that was different from what was experienced on the ranch or that was different for the end consumer, it was like any other appliance you could go buy, and it was like any other cookware they could go buy. So then why were they motivated to buy Biggest Loser appliances and cookware? And in essence, they weren't. But the products that we really spent time to say, you know, this is unique to the show, and I'll give you an example of a success just to give the example here and to counteract what the notion of having it tied to story. You know, the same company also created the Biggest Loser food and weight scales, and those were an astronomical hit. Like QVC had never sold so many weight scales before in their history, and those products are still on shelves selling like crazy, you know, 6-7 years later. And the reason is because we took the notion of, obviously the scale is a huge part of the foundation of Biggest Loser, but we also tied in unique aspects of it that allowed a tool for someone to use that scale to then keep on track and maintain their healthy lifestyle. So one of the first scales we launched was a weight scale where when you stood on the scale, it not only told you your weight, but it then proactively gave you information about, you know, to maintain this weight, you need to consume this many calories.
Smart.
So it gave someone that tool when they started their day to say, great job for wherever you are, and to maintain this, you have to eat this many calories a day, and if you want to lose more, you know, if you need to lose more weight to reach your goal, well, then you have to eat less than that. And then we just continue to refine those scales to allow them to become really interactive as opposed to just a weight scale. So I think that is the notion of keeping it tied to your storytelling.
Smart. All right, the last one. Actually, I've got a bonus one, but what is one tactical tip that is going to helps you to be successful at your agency? Give us something helpful that we can use that's meaningful.
Sure, and from my point of view, it's coming from you know, a small business and growing a small business, and I think the hardest thing to do sometimes is really staying disciplined and focused, and you know, you really have to those two things I think are key to staying on course with everything. And from our end, it is really time management. And it's time management in the sense of, you know, we now work with clients in a number of different capacities, and some of those are short-term, you know, retainer clients.
Yep. And
it's balancing your consulting clients with your long-term clients, and it's balancing your retainer clients with your commission clients, and making sure that everything you take on, you can service completely. And playing back to who we are and the fabric of who the company is also over-delivering against, you know, the basis of what we're coming on board for. And I think as long as you're viewing things as a partnership, that notion will always come into play. But I think it's just discipline, focus, and time management are my key things that I try to resonate with every day to stay on course.
I love it. That's really great. Hey, Chad, I want to thank you for answering all these questions, letting us interview. I'm really excited to see you at this event. Those of you that are watching this, it's going to be at July 16th in Los Angeles. But if you watch this, if the event's over, click the links below, find out more about Media Leaders. You can also connect with Chad in the links below on LinkedIn. I encourage you to reach out to him. Thanks, everybody, for watching this. Chad, thanks for your time.
We'll see you at the event.
Thanks, bud.
Bye.